12-hour shifts. Safety engineer at the stadium allegedly warned his supervisor of possible problems. 2 workers unfortunately died when this crane collapsed.
On November 27, 2013, a single mistake turned a mighty crane into the cause of one of Brazil's most tragic construction disasters. This is the story behind the $500 million World Cup crane collapse. To understand how everything came apart so suddenly, you first need to know what kind of machine was doing the work that day. A towering yellow powerhouse built in Germany by Liebherr, a company known worldwide for engineering machines that rarely fail. This model could hoist nearly 500 tons, more than the weight of a fully loaded Airbus plane, and place it gently onto a structure with the precision of a steady hand. Machines like this cost millions. They're built with sensors, alarms, and safety systems designed to make sure something this heavy never becomes a threat. And under normal conditions, the process is almost graceful. The operator positions the huge telescopic arm, extends it section by section, slowly builds the pressure in the hydraulics, and lifts the load inch by inch until it floats off the ground. The machine senses how much weight it's carrying, adjusts its balance, and keeps everything stable. When done correctly, it's boring, controlled, predictable. Exactly what you want when you're handling hundreds of tons of steel in the air. But on that day in Sao Paulo, things weren't normal. Instead of biting into firm soil, the machine was standing on ground softened after days of rainfall. And the moment it lifted that massive 420-ton roof segment, one of the heaviest lifts ever attempted on a stadium, the surface beneath one of its supports began to shift. Not by much, a few centimeters. But when you're holding something that weighs more than a Boeing 747, a few centimeters might as well be a cliff. Just before the final lift, witnesses said the machine looked slightly tilted, not enough to cause panic, just enough that someone paying close attention might have wondered if the foundation was fully secure. And that's the heart of the mystery. How did something this big get the green light to proceed without making sure the ground below was strong enough? When the operator began the lift, everything looked completely normal for the first few moments. The massive roof piece rose steadily off the ground. The crane's arm adjusted with controlled precision, and it felt as if the entire stadium collectively held its breath. Workers watched from a distance, some recording, others silently hoping this final piece would finally go up without issues. But then, something subtle changed. The left side support began to sink, barely noticeable at first, just a tiny, uneven dip. Then it dropped again, quicker this time, like a foot slipping off a step that wasn't supposed to move. A deep metallic groan rippled through the structure as the balance shifted. The crane's arms started to twist under the sudden, uneven weight. The suspended load swung dangerously to the side, pulling the entire machine with it. Once the crane tilted beyond its safe angle, the point of no return was crossed instantly. There was no stabilizing it, no emergency brake that could stop that much mass in motion. The base skid, the steel frame buckled, the arms snapped downward with brutal force. In a single catastrophic moment, the entire roof segment came crashing down onto the stadium stands, pulverizing concrete, ripping through seating rows, and crushing everything in its path. The sound echoed like an explosion, and within seconds, chaos replaced anticipation. Two workers lost their lives instantly. Another died shortly after. In a matter of moments, families were shattered, dreams cut short, and an entire nation was left reeling. Brazil went into shock. What was supposed to be a moment of pride became a moment of national mourning. And instead of celebration, the stadium transformed into a stark reminder of what can go horribly wrong when impossible deadlines and mounting pressure are treated as more important than the people risking their lives to meet them. At this point, most people ask the same question you might be asking now. If this machine is so advanced, how could something like this happen? Shouldn't there have been warnings? Sensors? Sirens? Well, there should have been. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The system designed to stop this exact kind of disaster wasn't working that day. The load moment indicator, basically the machine's sense of balance, wasn't functioning properly. Not broken by the accident, not damaged during the fall. It hadn't been working even before the lift started. Now ask yourself, how does a multi-million-dollar machine begin one of the most important lifts in the country without a functioning safety device? That's the point where technical failure turns into human failure. Documents later revealed something important. The project was under huge pressure to finish. Brazil was preparing for the World Cup, and every day of delay meant embarrassment, financial penalties, and political headaches. That pressure trickled down to the contractors, to the engineers, and eventually to the workers on the ground. And the lift that day wasn't just a lift, it was a milestone. A public milestone. Something to show the world, look, we're on schedule. So instead of waiting for the ground to dry, instead of postponing the lift until the sensors were repaired, instead of taking the safer, slower route, they pushed forward. And that's why this wasn't just an accident. It was an inevitable chain reaction built from rushed schedules, ignored warnings, and the belief that nothing would go wrong because nothing had gone wrong before. The collapse caused more than a tragic loss of life. Financially, it hit hard. The structure destroyed in the fall cost tens of millions to rebuild. The entire stadium's budget ballooned from its already massive estimate. Insurance battles dragged on. Politicians blamed contractors, contractors blamed engineers, engineers blamed the weather, and the families of the victims were left wondering why no one seemed willing to accept responsibility. You'd think an accident this big would spark major changes, and in some ways it did. Brazil reviewed its safety protocols. Construction companies tightened their lifting procedures. Engineers became more vocal about foundation checks before heavy lifts. But there was no revolutionary law, no sweeping national reform. Not the kind you might expect from such a dramatic failure. The real changes happened quietly, inside companies, inside engineering schools, inside the minds of operators who now double-check every detail before raising anything that weighs more than a car. Looking back at it now, this accident teaches a painfully clear lesson. Big machines don't fail suddenly. They fail slowly, through decisions, shortcuts, and little signs ignored along the way. It wasn't raining. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't an unpredictable freak event. It was a combination of tiny human choices adding up to something catastrophic. And the saddest part? If just one of those decisions had been different, if the lift had been delayed, if the sensor had been fixed, if the ground had been properly tested, 3 people would still be alive, and Brazil's shiny new World Cup stadium would have opened without ever carrying the weight of this tragedy. And here's one last question to leave you thinking. If a single rushed lift can bring down part of a $500 million stadium, what other risks are still hiding behind the world's biggest construction projects today?